Americans, what is something that Europeans have/do that makes no sense to you? I'm Canadian, but it's always baffled me that some Europeans consider a half hour's worth of driving a long time. That wouldn't even get me out of the area I'd consider local. Redditor responds. LOL, I moved from Germany to the Netherlands. The Netherlands are so small that the longest you could actually drive from one point to another is 4 hours, otherwise you would cross a border. When I was a child I used to go to my grandparents' house every weekend. They only lived an hour away, so the way was short to me. My boyfriend is Dutch and he told me he barely ever saw his grandma growing up because she lived so far away and they never visited her because of the long way. She lived 1.5 hours away. It's not that it doesn't make sense, but the first time I saw those windows that can be moved a bunch of different ways, you would have thought I was seeing a rabbit being pulled out of a hat. That's how amazed I looked. Tilt and turn windows. Redditor responds. I don't know if you know this, but many European windows also have a winter mode. When the handle is 45 degrees up, they open up just a tiny bit, 1 to 2 millimeters, to provide some small amount of air circulation, but not too much to not lose warm air inside. Another Redditor responds. Us Germans are obsessed with ventilation. Even in the middle of winter, we'll periodically slam our fancy tilt windows open. Problem with the tilting or slight opening is it can lead to condensation with low temps and thus lead to mold. And we are obsessed with preventing mold. Anyways, make sure the air in your room stays good, it makes all the difference. In Germany, apartments don't normally come with a kitchen. It's purchased/installed by the tenant. Sometimes you luck out but not usually. Redditor responds. When we sold our house recently, a German woman viewed it and said, "This is lovely kitchen. We'll be shamed to see it go." I was like, "Go where?" She was so excited when I said we weren't taking the kitchen anywhere. Me and my husband were so confused. She thought the house was a real catch because of it and was really shocked, and the estate agent said that nobody takes their kitchens with them. Odd. Another Redditor responds. How does one take the kitchen? Pretty sure mine is good and attached to the house, this does not compute. Another Redditor responds. They literally remove everything from the wall and take it with them. I don't know if it's all Europeans, but Germans have a real big problem with staring like I owe them money. Also paying to use the bathroom in public spaces. Redditor responds. LOL, we do stare a lot. When I went to study in the UK, one of my professors asked me during a tutorial whether he was saying wrong things because apparently I kept staring at him. I didn't even notice it, huh? Another Redditor responds. Different cultures put different emphasis on eye contact. In some it's rude to make eye contact. In others it's a sign of attention, and not giving eye contact to someone speaking would be very rude. I'm from the Midwest and my family is from the Netherlands. So the society that wouldn't dare offend you in any way, and the society that has no problem dropping truth bombs on you. It's rough. To all you Italians, why can't I have a cappuccino past noon? Italian Redditor responds. Italian here. You can have cappuccino, it's just weird. We do usually a sweet breakfast and milk in coffee makes sense. After breakfast we usually don't drink milk at all, so if we need coffee, espresso is fine. Why? Probably because that's what was used to do many years ago when you used fresh milk, and until the milkman the next day you were out of it. Just guessing though. No AC, sure fine, but then no screens on your windows so all the bugs get in? Not sure if this is all of Europe, but def the UK. Also no top sheets? Redditor responds. The screens thing is so fucking weird to me. The no AC forces you to open your windows. I stayed in the French countryside once in the summer. Kept the windows open at night. So many bug bites the next morning. Another Redditor responds. I had my windows open at my Airbnb in France last night and a bat flew in. It took him 10 minutes to find his way out again. It's not that it makes no sense, but I've always been curious how carbonated water became the default in many places. Redditor responds. Sparkling water has been around for a long time. There's wells where the water comes out of the ground naturally carbonated. Another Redditor responds. They had this where I grew up in Colorado Springs. There's this little town called Manitou and they have natural wells with that type of water. My British grandma always had a plastic tub in the sink to soak dishes. It seems so weird to have a sink in a sink basically. Redditor responds. The idea is that you can have stuff soaking while still being able to pour stuff down the sink. I have absolutely no idea why anyone that has a dual sink has one, though. Another Redditor responds. Obviously so you can have a virtual third sink. One can never have too many sinks. Another Redditor responds. Just let that sink in. The smoking. I stayed with a host family in France and my 16-year-old host sister smoked like a chimney, as did all her friends. Like you're so young. Why? Redditor responds. That is a very French thing. In my country almost nobody smokes. And absolutely not indoors. Another Redditor responds. That reminds me of this funny bit on Top Gear, or maybe the Grand Tour, where they're in China and Clarkson is on the highway and says, they have cameras installed every kilometer on the highway that takes a photograph to ensure you're smoking, which is compulsory. Why you guys like to put bathroom light switches outside the bathroom? Redditor responds. It's to do with the electrical regulations over here. Basically we don't allow electrics within a certain distance of a water source. And by placing the light switch outside it means the electricity is outside the zone close to the water. It stops people with wet hands getting electrocuted. You are allowed a pull cord light switch inside the bathroom as you're pulling the cord and not actually touching anything with electricity going through it. Saw that mostly in the UK, having two separate faucets for hot and cold water? What the hell lol? Washing my hands was the worst. Redditor responds. Not just hot and cold. One is lava, the other is liquid nitrogen. Another Redditor responds. Yeah, I'm an American who lived in London for college. I had to do this weird turn both on and just have this constant back and forth between the two when washing my hands. It was horrible lol. I lined in Germany 3 years, I loved everything about it, except one thing, personal space doesn't exist in lines. I'd be standing in line at a store and the next person behind me is breathing down my neck. Step back man. Redditor responds. Must have been a long line if you were standing in it for 3 years. Another Redditor responds. Come to Sweden, you can use us Swedes as 2m measures, or 1m in crowded areas, because as long as you're not in rush hour Stockholm, people have a very strong sense of personal space. I do find it a bit odd that everyone sort of agrees nothing happens in August. Like, for a whole month, you better not need anything done, even doctors seem scarce. Edit, to be clear, August is the vacation month in many places in Europe. While August is a popular time to go away in the US, summer vacations seem more distributed through the schoolless months. In Europe, however, it just seems understood no one will work in August, or at least a large part of it. Redditor responds. Well, People have to take their 30 days of vacation a year at some point, so might as well all do it when it's nice weather and agree that nothing is getting done. Another Redditor responds. This is surely the reason, and it is often the hottest month in parts of Europe and the time you want to be away from the cities. Hey! We're halfway through the video, thanks for watching. 96% of the people watching my videos are currently unsubscribed to my channel. You would help me out a lot. Thanks. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Not weird, but I'm always pretty impressed by their grasp of languages. Here's Ivan straight out of the mean streets of Moscow who speaks better English than I do, and he also speaks Portuguese and Mandarin. Redditor responds. The wild thing is that you can drive from Lisbon, Portugal to Athens, Greece, and past those several countries with a multitude of languages in about 42 hours. You can drive from Los Angeles, California to New York City in 42 hours, and the large majority of people will speak English as their primary, often only, language, and you never leave the US. Leaving babies and napping outside, alone, in cold weather. This is specifically aimed at the Scandinavians. I was in Denmark in November and it was a super windy, cold week, ranged from -6 degrees to -9 degrees Celsius, and this honestly stunned me. I admire that people feel so safe that they can do it. Redditor responds. I'm from the UK and my grandmother was telling me that it used to be super common for people to leave their babies in prams outside. Doing the housework and baby needs fresh air. Put them outside in their pram. Going into a shop for a couple of things. Pram outside. My mother actually did this with me, doing housework whilst I'd be sleeping outside. I'm going to Europe on my honeymoon, and it's been crazy to me how other countries just have open borders. I'm taking the ICE from Germany to France and there's no border checks. It's really fascinating to me. Redditor responds. When I was in the Navy, in Germany some of my comrades fell asleep on the train home and woke up in Switzerland. They then got themselves a beer and rode the train back. I am from and work in SEA and work with both Euros and Americans. The Americans adjust to heat and humidity pretty fast and well, the Euros not so much. Redditor responds. To be fair, the entire eastern part of the US is fairly humid. Much more so the further south you go. The entire southeast of the US feel like living in a bowl of soup in the summer. And the entire southwest, while very dry, is quite hot. So a lot of Americans are already pretty used to heat and humidity. Another Redditor responds. I'm from Georgia, US state. Our summers will rarely drop below 95% humidity and the temperature is normally somewhere between 90 to 110 Fahrenheit during that time. In Paris, I was offered a seat on the metro when there was none every single time. I'm a senior. Very seldom happens here. Redditor responds. It's very common. I do feel bad when I offer up my seat and they don't take it. Seems like I just called them old and disabled. Another Redditor responds. Not necessary, my grandma would refuse because it's harder for her to seat and then to have to stand again than just to stand. But yeah, my mum was once offered, age 55, a seat and 10 years later she's still upset about it. A lot of European cultures eat dinner so late at night. I can't imagine eating my dinner at 8 or 9 at night. Redditor responds. To be fair, this is a south-north split. In Netherlands/Germany/ and further the dining is more typical to the US. Spain/Italy/Croatia though. I thought I was gonna starve to death. Another Redditor responds. I am from the UK and we'd have dinner once back from work, i.e. around 6. Now that I live in France, if you're planning to go out for dinner, nowhere is even open until 7. Concerts or opera starting at 8:30 in the evening was the deal breaker for me. It is just not possible to stay functional that late when you have to be up before 6 for work. Another Redditor responds. I live in Sweden and I have always eaten dinner at around 4:30 or 5. School and work usually starts around 8 in the morning. You eat lunch around 12 and about 5 you're hungry again. Can't imagine either eating at 8 or 9. No ice in the water. Redditor responds. I asked for ice in my water at a restaurant in Copenhagen and the waitress warned me it would be cold. Another Redditor responds. Try this in China. In China, people tend to drink their water hot, like hot tea. I went to a nice restaurant there once, and asked for water. It came steaming hot, whereas I was expecting ice water. So I asked for some ice, and the server brought like 1 cube, and she was worried that it would make the water too cold. I dropped the cube into the water and it melted immediately, so I wound up drinking a glass of hot water instead of very hot water. It was pretty funny, really. She was so concerned that I'd be upset that the ice would keep my water from being hot enough, when I was expecting something a lot colder than the water she was worried about. Speak multiple languages. Most Europeans I know speak at least 2. Redditor responds. We kinda have no choice, at least in my country. When you enter the 2nd grade of middle school, age around 7 years old, you just get English as a subject. It's mandatory, there is nothing you can do about it. And I am honestly glad, because English really opened world to me. Can't even imagine to speak one maternal language, especially since our countries are so small. The fact that many can take 2 hours for lunch in the middle of a day and it is considered to be a norm. Redditor responds. 2-hour lunch is a bit long, but around 1 hour is more reasonable. Usually a half or 1 hour lunch break is mandatory by law, so you go and eat and enjoy it. We work to live, not live to work. Sneezes get no reaction. I have since come around to their point of view, but for a minute there I was like, where are my blessings? I think certain countries need to be specified really. The cultures of the UK and Greece are completely different to make a blanket statement. Redditor responds. Yeah, like one has classic Greek sculptures, a failing economy, a dispute with a neighbor over land on an island, large levels of poverty, unintelligible ways of speaking, and the other one is Greece. I worked at a spa and people all around the world would come. The Europeans were so comfortable with getting naked like it's nothing. Mind you, this is 5 stars, celebs and MS Universe models come to this spa, and Europeans will walk naked like nothing. Redditor responds. Because in most of Europe, nudity is not inherently sexualized. Being naked doesn't mean being sexual, and it's something we grew up with. It's definitely not for everyone, especially in modern days, but there is a larger prevalence of nudist beaches, etc. Another Redditor responds. It does sort of depend, though. In Germany, nudity in a sauna is often the rule, and to accommodate people who don't want to be seen naked by the other sex there will be women only or men only time slots. In France, you usually have to wear at least a bathing suit in a mixed sauna. Obviously I'm not talking about swingers places disguised as saunas. Again, in Germany, especially Eastern Germany, many beaches have a naturist area set aside for those who want to be nude, and it really is usually genuine naturists there, not swingers. In France this is the case only in a few places, and of those places, at least one, Cap d'Agde, really is just a swingers beach pretending to be a nude beach. Bitch about Americans being loud and obnoxious when French people exist. Redditor responds. Yeah, as a French I agree. Sorry for that. But have you heard a slightly upset Spanish woman? Another Redditor responds. A small disagreement between Italians. Calling the second floor the first floor. Redditor responds. I moved to Germany, where they do that, from Finland, where they don't. After over 2 years I still get confused sometimes, lol. If you're still here, can you please check if you are already subscribed? It would help out a ton. Thanks for watching. Until next time.